Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy. Pluckers tonight, sports trivia, 8:30 Nicholson location. We'll be watching LSU and Northwestern State. We'll be watching the Cubbies take on the Padres. NBA playoff action will be on as well. Come on out, grab a team, play some sports trivia tonight at Pluckers. Very much looking forward to sports trivia out of the Nicholson location, 8:30 tonight. Saw some DraftKings lines for LSU games in the fall on the gridiron and wanted to discuss a few of them. If you follow us on Instagram at 1045 ESPN or on Twitter, you saw the graphic that we put up as well. And I just wanted to go through a few of these and give my gut reaction. Completely full disclosure, it is May. The transfer portal is not even done yet. And I have not taken the time, as I do every early July, to really read up on the teams around the conference. I know about as much about these teams as you do. Like, have not done research, have not studied in. The point of this exercise in this segment here is purely to say, that's interesting for this reason or that reason, or I agree or disagree for that reason or this reason. Like, it's not going to be a deep dive into the right tackle situation at Florida, how the safeties are looking at Oklahoma, and what the running back rotation looks like for Arkansas, because I can't tell you any of that today as we sit here in May. That is way out over my skis. I just have a working knowledge of what the state of those programs has been recently. I know the quarterbacks for the most part, and so I'll just kind of dive into some of these numbers here, starting with the USC game, where LSU is a 6-point favorite over USC. That number surprises me a lot. LSU has gotten out of the blocks extremely poorly both years under Brian Kelly. You can suggest that that was expected in year one. I suggest it probably shouldn't have been in year two. We didn't know much about the defense at that point, and Florida State just dusted LSU in that game in Orlando. It was not nearly as close as the score would have even indicated. It was a blowout in the second half. And everyone feels like LSU is really struggling to figure out their defense at this point. You've had a complete overhaul of your staff. You've had no success in the transfer portal at defensive tackle. And I know that Caleb Williams is not there anymore, and I know that USC went 7-5, but Lincoln Riley still scores a lot of points. And so to lay 6 feels like a lot to me. Again, I don't know what USC's offensive line looks like. I don't know what they return on defense. I don't know if they've got a first-team All-American at wide receiver. Like, I don't know a ton about USC's personnel. I just know what that program is going to be built on, which is Lincoln Riley's offense. I know what LSU is trying to address frantically, and that's defense. And to have a 6-point number seems like a lot to me. LSU hosts Ole Miss this coming year. Tigers 2.5-point favorites there. That surprises me because I feel like Ole Miss is everybody's darling at this point. And so to have LSU favored in that game without Jaden Daniels and without Brian Thomas and without Malik Neighbors surprises me a little bit, knowing what Lane Kiffin and Jackson Dart did to that LSU defense last year, which was score 7,000 points. I'm a little bit surprised at that number as well. I'm also surprised at the next number, which is LSU at Arkansas, LSU laying 8 points on the road. I think LSU is going to destroy Arkansas. Arkansas loses KJ Jefferson. They've got a new offense they're going to put in with Bobby Petrino. They've got a quarterback who's coming from Boise State, who I've seen tape of, doesn't look that good to me. I think their personnel stinks. Sam Pittman has lost a ton from the transfer portal. I think Arkansas is going to be atrocious. I don't think there's any way Sam Pittman is around for Thanksgiving. And I think LSU is going to go up to Arkansas and crush them. I'd lay the 8 points and wouldn't think twice about it at this point. Like, would not think twice about it. I guess if I tried to talk myself out of it, I could suggest Sam Pittman usually has a pretty good offensive line. They'll run the ball at a depleted LSU defensive line and keep it close. Sorry, I think Arkansas's program's in a disastrous shape. A&M will host LSU at Kyle Field. They are a 3-point favorite over LSU. That one sounds about right. I think in year one of Mike Elko at College Station, I think they've got a good quarterback, but they may have some issues with the depth of their program. LSU, I think they're about on level playing field with Texas A&M, knowing what we know about LSU's defense. I think that being basically a pick 'em that you give A&M 3 points for Kyle Field, that one sounds right. I think that the USC one I'm a little struggling with. Ole Miss I'm struggling with a little bit. Arkansas I think is wrong. This one I think checks out. Then we go to LSU and Alabama. That game is in Tiger Stadium this coming year, and they got LSU as a 1-point favorite. That surprises me, and I'm curious about people betting on Alabama because we know that in the Saban era, Bama's been a huge public team. People feel comfortable laying whatever amount of points they're laying with Alabama as long as Nick Saban has the headset. I'm curious if that flips with Kalen DeBoer. Do people feel like, Saban's not there anymore, not the same Bama, I'll go the other way? Because it almost like makes my eyes itch to look at the number next to Alabama and see -1 next to LSU. Like, no one's ever favored against Alabama. Only Georgia is ever favored against Alabama. So to see LSU as a favorite there, even though if you consider the point spread being shifted because LSU's at home, means if it's just -1 that Vegas thinks that Alabama's got a better team, still, LSU's favored. You just never see that. So we'll see. I'm curious, as everybody else is, to see what Kalen DeBoer can do in his first year at Alabama. At Florida, LSU is a 5.5-point favorite. This is going to be a very, very, very popular refrain in, I think, Dallas this coming year for SEC Media Days. I think that's where Media Days is this year. Dallas, Texas, with Oklahoma and Texas coming in.
Dallas.
It's going to be a very popular refrain. Florida stinks. Napier's fired. They got nothing. And I don't totally disagree with that. I do believe that this will be Billy Napier's last year in Gainesville. I also believe that Graham Mertz is functional. I didn't say great. I didn't say a Heisman dark horse. I didn't see first team all league. I think he's functional. And they've got a couple of good playmakers on the outside. And Napier, in his career, has been a pretty good offensive coach. Now, they got defensive problems for sure. And they got culture problems and fan base interest problems. So problems aplenty in Gainesville at this point. 5.5, that one I can probably get on board with. I'd have a hard time hammering LSU in the swamp laying 5.5. Seems like a lot. Seems like a number that I could get on board with. The last one surprises me a little bit too. Oklahoma coming to Baton Rouge. And let me tell you this just straight up. I'm excited for that game. I don't know what LSU's record is going to be at that point. I don't know what Oklahoma's record is going to be at that point. I don't know what's going to be on the line, whether it's a trip to Atlanta for the SEC Championship game, potential playoff berths. I'm not sure. But it's going to be cool to be inside Tiger Stadium when that historic program comes out of that end zone. I've, for decades now, literally, watched Florida and Alabama come out of that tunnel. I've watched Georgia and Tennessee and Texas A&M come out of that tunnel. I've seen Ole Miss and Arkansas, and you know. And I've watched Notre Dame coming out of that tunnel. I've watched West Virginia come out of that tunnel. But to see Oklahoma, when in my time here as an LSU fan, media member, I've watched LSU play Oklahoma in New Orleans for a national championship. I watched LSU play Oklahoma in Atlanta for a Final Four game, but never inside Tiger Stadium. And it's going to be a cool environment, literally and figuratively, with the weather the last weekend of the year. And that's just going to be a really cool setting that I'm very much looking forward to. And when I say that, that's one of the things that I don't despise about conference realignment. I've watched Auburn come out of that tunnel for years, and I would love it if we played them again this year. But Oklahoma and Auburn, I can give and take there. Like, it is what it is. It's a historic program. It's got a lot of really good players. Should be a great environment. Let LSU go out there and play inside Tiger Stadium. I don't hate the fact that Auburn's out and Oklahoma's in. I just think it's cool. Now, you tell me that LSU's going to play half of their games in Eugene, Oregon, Columbus, Ohio, State College, Pennsylvania, and Madison, Wisconsin, and it's that far away, and you feel kind of detached from it. That I might push back on a little bit if it's the majority of your schedule. But we still have a regional feel to it, and I could get to Norman, Oklahoma if I needed to. But the line on the game is 5, LSU being favored. And, again, I don't know a ton about what Oklahoma is. I know they've got a new quarterback that they're bringing in. And I know that Brent Venables did a better job in year 2 than he did in year 1. But that line feels about right at 5. LSU's a little bit better and gets a couple points at home. So I don't have hot takes on what side I would be taking here or there other than the Arkansas game, because I think that LSU should win that game by 20. But outside of that, it feels about right. I think the Florida line feels about right. I think the A&M game line feels about right. I think the Ole Miss line feels about right, even though I'm a little surprised by it. I also think that laying 6 with LSU against SC is something I'm not willing to do today. I'm confident there are a bunch of you people out there that have already fired up the apps and placed money on LSU in the opener, because that's what fans do. Gotten burned on that 5 years in a row, but it just feels like the play. I'm not as comfortable doing that right out of the chute.
So just to add on to what we were talking about with Alabama, about wondering how people will go in terms of betting on the team, just a couple of one. The most interesting one to me.
Let me guess. No, give me the team. Let me guess the line.
Okay, Georgia. At Alabama. This is in Tuscaloosa.
Game's in Tuscaloosa. I would say Georgia's a 5-point favorite.
4.5. And their season opener against Wisconsin, they're 7.5-point favorites in that one.
Is that game neutral site somewhere?
It's a neutral site. They are 2-point favorites.
7.5?
Yeah, 7.5.
Give me the Tide.
Yeah.
Sorry. Wisconsin's no thanks.
But again, I think that just goes to the fact that it seems like
that line would have been 16. Yeah, if Saban was there.
Yeah, and then Alabama at Knoxville, 2-point favorites.
Whoa. Okay.
Yep. 8.5-point favorites at home against Missouri, and then the LSU line, of course, and then they're 1.5-point favorites at Oklahoma, which is interesting.
It is, because LSU. Well, I guess that's the home and away.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and then the last one at Tuscaloosa, they're playing Auburn, the Iron Bowl. They're 15-point favorites.
Whoa, that was bigger. I was going to say something closer to 9. So yeah, okay, all right. Well, that's some early betting lines in college football. Give me your thoughts in the Bayou Ford chat over on YouTube, and we'll get to a few of those. Let's step away. When we come back, Sharif Ishak, usually with us in hour 2, going to join us in hour number 1. Talk some Saints and Pels. That's next. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.